Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Pavan Agarwal, the CEO of SunWest Mortgage Company and of Celligence, and he's a 2023 HW Finance Leader. We're going to talk about what AI can do right now that's making realtors and loan officers more efficient and, dare I say, happier, and giving them opportunities they really need in this kind of market.
We may have just gotten back from Gathering of Eagles, but we're not done with events for 2023 yet. This October, we're headed right back to Austin, Texas for HousingWire Annual, and we want to see you there. We've got a power-packed agenda with content such as our Women of Influence speakers, peak performer playbooks, CEO playbooks, and more to propel your company forward, as well as a bunch of networking events. Because this event is open to real estate executives, mortgage, title, and everyone in between, you really have the opportunity to network with people from all across the housing ecosystem. If you want to learn more about the event, or if you're already ready to get registered, head over to HousingWire.com on the events tab and you can learn all about it. Not to mention, if you're an HW Plus member, you're going to get 50% off your ticket. So get registered for HW Plus and get registered for the event so we can see you out in Austin.
Pavan, welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here, Sarah.
Great to have you on. We have so many interesting topics today. Of course, I want to start out with AI. I mean, that's going to be central to our conversation because it's kind of central to who you are, what you're doing, and I would love to learn more about that. So bring me back to, why do you think AI is having a moment right now? Is it just the fact of what we're able to do right now, or is there something larger?
See, the first AI algorithms came out like in the 50s, and back then it was called pattern recognition. So where we are today, the funny thing is like we have another industry that kickstarted this industry. So people don't realize it, but the crypto industry is actually the precursor to AI, because all the crypto mining drove so much money into CPUs and GPUs and creating these big data centers that did these fast calculations. And that's what was needed. That infrastructure was needed for modern AI today. So it's basically, we were busy printing money using crypto, and the side effect was something even greater, right? I think at its peak, the cryptoverse had a market cap of something like $2 trillion or $3 trillion. And there's talking about AI having a $10 or $20 trillion impact to the economy over the next 10 years. So it's funny how technology works. One separate investment led to a whole explosion in another side. So the real innovation has actually been in hardware and not so much in software. The algorithms and the basic technologies have always existed, or not always, but have existed for a long time.
Super interesting that you're talking about the fact that some of this goes back to the 1950s. And we know this about technology, right? When it becomes more something that a large number of people can use, is like, oh, this, but even the term AI in mortgage, it depends on how you want to define that, how long that's been around in the mortgage lending servicing space. Tell us a little bit about the history there.
Well, I mean, you could argue that when DU and LP came out in the 90s, that was AI, right? So, I mean, AI is basically anything that makes intelligent decisions. So it could be rules-based or it could be neural net-based. And if you think about the way your own brain works, your own brain makes a combination of rules and neural net, right? Like multiplication table, we memorize those when we're children. And that's a rule. But then we learn also the pattern of how to multiply large numbers together. So a real AI system is a combination of the two. And IBM said the same thing when they created Watson and they beat the grandmaster in chess. It was a combination of rules and neural net. So and as in any technology, that's the one thing about computing that's been consistent, is there's no silver bullet. Engineering is always a trade-off. Is always a compromise. So there's no such thing as one technology as the ultimate panacea for everything.
You're bringing together two very different kinds of things with your engineering background and the fact that you joined the family business, was working in the family business from a lending servicing side. So Why did you choose to go into engineering? Like, did you think you were going to do part of the family business and lending, or were you thinking a different path?
Well, I was just following my heart. The lending business, the real estate business, I grew up in it. I mean, since I was a little kid, uh, doing door knocking with my mom on listing and farming her neighborhood to cleaning houses to, whatever it took to keep the mortgage company running. I've done payment collections. I've been a loan officer. So, my advice to any entrepreneur that's out there is do what you have to do. Right? Because you have responsibilities, you got to complete your responsibilities. But at the same time, don't forget where your heart is leading you, and don't give up on your visions.
I love that. So engineering was your heart. So how has that played a part in what you've brought to the family business, to SunWest?
Well, I started delivering innovative solutions from a very young age. So one of the first things we did was a little mortgage company with thinly capitalized trying to compete in an 18% interest rate environment. How do you do that? Okay, so I actually remember those days. I'm old enough to remember that. So how we did it was we I wrote some software that generated a truth in lending in 30 minutes as opposed to taking 3 hours back in the day. And you did the calculations. Back then you had, all the loan officers that are listening and complaining about 7, 8% or 6% interest rates today, right? We had to sell 18% back then that had a starting rate of 12% and negatively amortized, 6% negative amortization. The payment went up every year. That's the only way people got into houses back, in the early 80s, right? And you can imagine how complex that truth in lending is, and the closing docs for that. So I wrote the software to generate all that, and that gave us a clear advantage over our competition. And that's how we recruited loan officers. And then it was the same story over and over again. Then we did Title I loans, and through the 80s, second half before the California real estate crashed. And after that, the money store, we got out of the Title I business because we saw what direction California real estate's headed, and the money store got in deep, and then we know what happened with First Union and all that. That blew up. So and then from Title I's, and we refocused our tech into 203Ks, and we became the largest 203K originator nationally in the 90s. Then we refocused into reverse mortgages, and became one of the largest reverse mortgage originators and the first company to create the Ginnie Mae HMBS. I'm not sure if the audience or you're familiar with that. That's the reverse mortgage securitization platform. So we worked directly with Ginnie Mae to establish that securitization platform and the rules and the formulas for that. So we delivered that technology, and that technology then got used by some of the largest banks in the country. Even today, they're still using it. So our reverse mortgage technology is touching 80% of the loans out there.
So I know that you took over your family company in 2008. Is that correct? That's the right time
Yeah, I
frame?
officially took the reins. Yeah, I officially took the reins after the credit crisis.
So from my perspective, I started covering the industry in 2013. And so, I missed 2008, but what I saw was all of the regulations and, the DoddFrank things. That was a jump start to all the technology because there was no way that you could be compliant unless you had some of these, it was forcing the hands of lenders to be like, yeah, this has been around for a while, but now you have to invest in it because there's no other way you're going to be compliant. Is that what you saw? How did that work out at SunWest?
You know, when at the peak of the crisis, when Bear Stearns went down, okay, we had a very large line with Deutsche Bank, and they margin called us for several times our net worth. Okay, and we worked our way through it by being very smart about trading our loans, and we got through it. We took some bumps, we took some losses, but we got through it. Okay, the the real difference was we had liquidity, we had warehouse capacity, and we also controlled all of our own technology at that point. And we had basically a carte blanche playing field. And yes, the regulations came in. Yes, it made it more difficult for a lot of lenders. But I think the credit goes to the fact that when you have all the tools and you control your own destiny, it doesn't matter what the regulators do. It doesn't matter what happens around you. You'll find a way to get through it.
Really good insight there. I think that's interesting. So, when we think about AI, one of the first things that people think of is like it takes the place of people, right? I mean, if you're in any industry and you're like, oh, the rise of the robots or whatever, but you really see that differently. And in fact, you talk about empathetic AI and you talk about the role of people still in your company. So tell me how, on a fundamental level, you think about AI and people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pop culture science fiction out there. Everyone's seen the 2001 Space Odyssey of rogue AIs. But at the end of the day, when you understand how it works, it's just, again, nothing more than a fancy calculator. It's just a computer program, right? And it's making mathematical calculations really, really fast. So it's still following an algorithm. It cannot replace humans. It can simulate decisions that sound like humans, that look like humans, but it cannot be creative. Okay, so the best example I give is the logo for Angel AI. If you go into ChatGPT or any AI system and say design a logo for an AI company, okay, it's not going to come up with that logo. Right? That takes a human being to come up with that. I mean, now given that our original content is made publicly available and these engines have absorbed it, right? I wouldn't be surprised if now it came up with the ballerina as a logo. But see, so if you want to do something original, if you want to add value, if you want to connect with people, and that's what loan originators do on every single day basis, right? That's their number one job, is connecting and establishing a relationship. To do that, you have to be original and creative. Okay, so the tools like ChatGPT and Angel AI and these tools can help you cut through the day-to-day grind, the details, but the creativity, the initiative, the communication still has to come from you. Just what we're doing right now, you and I, face to face, right? That interaction, that delivery of the message, right? That's not an AI that can do that. There's a certain rapport building that's happening right now. It's happening with me and you. That's happening with me and the audience, and you and the audience. That cannot be replaced by an AI. And that's what every loan originator has to remember: is take the time to go out there. And if it means getting in the car and driving for an hour to visit a borrower at closing, okay, do it, because that's how you can get that referral and cement a relationship with the closing agent, cement a relationship with the listing agent, and get another referral. It's because the AI is not going to get in the car and drive to the closing for you.
I love that insight. I think we're such a people business, and especially at the loan officer level, such a people business. I think that's really interesting. So Celligence, your company Celligence, launched Angel AI. I think originally it was called Morgan, and you guys rebranded it. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to rebrand.
Yeah, actually, this is the second time we rebrand. When we first rolled it out, we didn't have a name for the product. We just called it Virtual Assist. And it was an internal tool that we used inside SunWest. And after several years of it running and our loan officers just absolutely loving it, and it's had a warranty that we've had with it, which is what we did was we said, if the AI gave you an answer and it's wrong, okay, we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to fund that loan anyways. So I'm not talking about giving a $500 closing cost credit or something. No, I'm talking about we're going to fund that loan anyways. So that's how it started off. And then when in October 21, we announced it broadly to the industry. And then at that point, we branded it Morgan because it's Mortgage Magician. Okay, that's how we came with Morgan. And it was really designed for just the mortgage industry at that time. That was the scope that we had in mind. Since then, and since the Super Bowl ad this year, it's expanded way beyond that, and it's expanded to right now. Realtors just absolutely love it because it's generating leads for them. They go in, they drop in some information about the client, and then it does all the follow up. It creates websites and so forth. So now it's a personal assistant for realtors, and realtors, as you know, the last thing they want to think about is mortgages, right? The loan officer is the last thing on the realtor's mind, and so we don't need a name that reminds them of mortgages, okay? Right? Because this is a personal assistant for their real needs today, okay? And some of the things that are coming out in the next 60, 90 days in Angel AI is stuff that every consumer is going to want to use it for. So, for example, in the next 60 days, we're going to have free credit repair capabilities. So the kind of stuff where consumers pay, upwards of $200 a trade line for a third-party credit repair company, they'll be able to just go to Angel AI and says, I've got this Discover card or whatever, this furniture bill. It's not really late. Can you take care of it? Okay, and credit repair is ideal for AI because so much of it is just consistency and follow-up. And you got to send the right letters out at the right time and so forth, right? And once you train the AI with the right rules, it's all automatic, and we're going to save hundreds of dollars for consumers and lift their credit. And when you lift consumers' credit up, then you create new home buyers, you create new credit access points.
Well, and you create a loyal customer who feels like, they trust you, and, you helped them achieve their dreams. So why wouldn't they also trust you with the other parts of that?
Exactly. And the goal of the technology is to keep the consumer engaged in the technology at all times. Right? That's the goal for any Google, Facebook, whatever. It's always is the goal for every tech company. And our approach to that is to provide these high-value services, because coming from financial services background, we know how to do it. It's easy for us. It's hard for Google to do, but it's easy for us to do because we understand credit. We understand, financial transactions. We understand the intricacies of banking. So along with things like credit repair, we have full support. We're planning on rolling out full support for blockchain and blockchain-based trading and blockchain-based transactions. We actually demoed it over a year ago in Vegas, and that demo is on our YouTube channel, which actually walks through an entire real estate transaction done on the blockchain and how quickly it can close. So you'll be able to transfer funds, right, along with now with the Fed announcing central bank digital currency, right? So having blockchain technology built into Angel AI it's a very intuitive AI-based wallet makes that whole process instantaneous and a nice, easy on-ramp to CBDC.
Wow. In a time when mortgage companies, lenders are looking for affiliated businesses or other lines of, money coming in, revenue coming in, seems like this is a pretty great one. But you had, you started years ago. This isn't something that you just were like, oh, in the last 18 months, the market's turning, we better do something.
Yeah, the investment in technology that we've done over the years is tremendous. And for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about technology and building, a system, what I say, my advice would be if you design something that is fundamentally solid, okay, if you design something with a good solid foundation and a good architecture founded in science, not on trends. There's a lot of stuff out there that's just based on trends. But if you design something based on science, not on trends, you will have built yourself a foundation that will last decades. And that's a lot of what is behind Angel AI are components that we built 10, 15, 20 years ago. Okay. So an example of a trend, right, is Visual Basic. That was a big trend 20 years ago, and so much software was written in Visual Basic. But where is it now? It's dead, right? Because that's not founded in good science. It was convenient, right? And the people who built on that had to throw it away, and they're building whole new software. Whereas the stuff we built, we're just able to keep adding on to it because it's the science is sound.
That's so interesting. I have a question about how Angel AI started to be, so here you are, you've got the tech part and you're very focused on mortgages. So at what point was it a top-down decision by you guys to say, we're going to reach out, we're going to develop something for real estate agents, or was it more them finding you guys and starting to use that?
For every tech company, the goal is to maximize its client base. So our core expertise obviously is in mortgages. And when I looked at it and I said, if we can automate the most complex and highly regulated process in the universe, right? There's more regulations regulating mortgages. For a bank to give a mortgage, there's more regulations than there are for a bank to take your money as a deposit. Okay, so that puts it in perspective how difficult that this industry is. So the way I saw it is, if I could do this and create a personal assistant for loan officers that makes their life a snap, then why not? Why not change this or add capabilities to it so that everyone can use it? You as an editor, or someone else as a baker, right? Or someone else running a gas station, right? Why not? That they can use the same capabilities. Everyone needs documents processed. Everyone needs websites created for, and everyone needs their customers followed up on. And that's what Angel AI does. It is doing that today for realtors. I mean, I had a podcast yesterday that I did with one of our Angel AI clients. It's a big real estate broker in Austin. Okay, and we met 2 weeks earlier at an event in Austin, and that event was driven by Angel AI. So another broker who was an Angel AI customer went into Angel AI, gave it a list of agents that she wanted at the event. Okay, and Angel AI took over, created a landing page, sent out e-blasts, mailed out postcards and everything for basically all for free, because it just a computer software just ran and helped her fill up that room. Okay, and so so that Angel AI connected, created, helped organize the event. This is all stuff that she, as a professional, would otherwise have to hire somebody to do, an assistant or something else to do it, and would have to spend so much time thinking about managing the process. You drop in the AI has already been trained on how to organize an event together, and it just did it.
As someone who puts events together, that's very impressive, right? I understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and every business needs the same thing, right? What business doesn't need that, right? And forget business. What, on a personal basis, you have a birthday party for your kid, right? Now, how much time do you spend in administrative work that you could, if 99% of us were as wealthy as the top 1%, then we could all afford personal assistants, right? So that if you had a personal assistant saying, hey, my kid's having a birthday party, go take care of it, right? You can't do that. You have to do all that stuff yourself, right? Create invitations and reach out and call them and make sure people show up and send out text messages and so forth, right? But now you will have that personal assistant, right? You will have an AI to say, hey, my kid's having a birthday party, take care of it. And everything will be done like top flight.
I think that's the difference this year, 2023, is that AI came into the realm where individuals could understand it and use it, and it was available to them. It's not just like, maybe they work for a company that has been, leveraging AI in different ways that they don't even know about, right? But this year, it's like it's come front and center, like this is how it can help me. This is how it's very personal. And I think to me that's what really has fueled it this year. And you made a comment before we started recording about how you felt like the AI revolution was going to be bigger in the end, more disruptive than than the industrial revolution. So tell me a little bit about that. Why is that? Why do you think that?
Yeah, so Harvard did a study, and it said that the average person spends 41% of his time doing things that a personal assistant could do. So if you stop and think about it, right, out of an 8-hour day, 3.5 hours, right, are being spent doing something that a personal assistant could have done for you, right? So that's why wealthy people get more wealthy, because they can hire assistants to do the mundane work so that they can focus on doing stuff that makes them more money. Okay, so if we can remove the mundane work off the hands of the rest of us, the 99%, and now you could use that extra time, extra 3-4 hours a day, you can use to focus on your kids' education, to focus on that, starting that business that you always wanted to, but you couldn't because you couldn't find the free time, right? To focus on going to the gym, which I need to do more of, right? So that's what the revolution would be, is that it's putting, like you said, it's putting AI into everyone's hand. That means it's giving freedom back to everyone. It's giving all this new time found. Another metaphor I like to use is the washing machine. Before the washing machine, every family did laundry by hand, right? And hours every week were spent, washing clothes and hanging and drying them and folding them and all this stuff, right? The washing machine cut that whole process down to 2 minutes, right? So yes, some laundry services lost business and some jobs were lost, but net, like a tidal wave of new jobs were created because you have all of these people that are freed to be creative. The highest and best use of humanity is to be creative.
I 100% agree. And that is an exciting thing. You mentioned blockchain earlier, and a lot of people, blockchain was the buzzword, 4 or 5 years ago. And every conference I went to, we had a bunch of, content on it. People wanted to talk about it. And, this last year, you talk about blockchain, people are like, what? No, that's old. Like in their mind, it's been relegated to like, it was a flash in the pan. It didn't change anything. We're done with that. But you seem to think differently.
No, it's kind of the feeling, that's the advantage of being as old as I am, and you've seen it all. And that there was a lot of similar feeling after the dot-com bust in the late 90s or the early 2000s. And it seemed like, the internet, that was a flash in the pants, what was that all about, right? But and you step back here and you look at it now, it's like, we wouldn't be having this conversation today if not for the internet and the massive investments that happened, right? So the massive investments that happened during the dot-com boom was in creation of broadband. Okay, that was the side effect of that. And after the creation of broadband and to everyone's phone, okay, the same thing, broadband, blockchain, as I said earlier, created this investment in GPUs and computing data centers, okay, along with the fundamental technology of blockchain is immensely valuable, just like the fundamental technology of the internet. What we're doing right now, the web browser, is immensely valuable, and it opens up new industries and new ways of doing things that previously took a long time to do. Financial transactions right now, you write a check, could take 7 days to clear a check, right? So why should it take 7 days? And it's insecure, right? If you've seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, you know how insecure a check is, right? So it's the same thing. If I could move $1 million from me to you, right, in a microsecond, and it's airtight, secure, it can't be intercepted, it can't be fudged, it can't be, changed, and it lives forever, right? And it's a single point of truth that we all can agree on. Right? It's the one technology. Right? It's the one technology that creates a single source of truth that all of humanity agrees on. Right? It's a standard, and that's the power of blockchain. And if anything, right, even though Bitcoin has gone from $60,000 to $20,000 or whatever it is now, right? The point is that it's still worth a lot more. At $20,000, it's still worth a lot more than pennies, right? We all heard the story about the guy who bought a pizza for 100 million Bitcoins, right, back in the day, right? So it's still worth $20,000 Bitcoin, right? It's not nothing. It's still a multi-trillion-dollar market, and there's a reason for that, and because the technology is incredibly valuable, right? And progress will continue indefinitely in this technology.
Really interesting. Okay, we're at the end of our time, but last thing I want to ask you is what are you most looking forward to when you think about technology and the real estate transaction, or even maybe broader than that? What makes you excited? What can't you wait to see?
There's a lot of stuff. I could start going off into the ozone now, but I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to make it more real and more relatable with this audience. I'm looking forward to. I think we are within 12 months or less, where literally you have an instant financial transaction. Something as complex as a mortgage, it boils down to, Sarah, you want that house, okay? You go into your crypto wallet and you initiate the transaction and you have the house. And it's instantly done on the between AI doing all the analysis and connecting all the dots and the blockchain recording it. It will be that fast and that seamless.
Wow, and 12 months, huh? You think we're that close?
Yes, we actually already have prototypes running, and that's what we demoed last year. I think it was last June. Yeah, so it's been a little over a year. We actually walked through a demo of that prototype.
Wow. Well, Pavan, thank you so much for being on. I'm going to have you back on before 12 months. We're going to see where we are on this timeline. But thanks so much for sharing your insight as someone who's coming from both the tech background and the lending background. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah.